All right, so our first question today, what are some of the big questions that you've studied on immigration?
Well, the big question we've been interested in is whether ethnic diversity weakens what was a class-based politics of the welfare state. And immigration is the biggest source of growing diversity in Western nations, democratic nations. And so the question we've investigated is it the case that countries with high levels of immigration, more diverse populations, have difficulty having a sense of a common social solidarity, a mutual support for the inclusion of immigrants in what we might call we, as opposed to others? So that's been the biggest question we've asked.
What about this question is important to you?
Well, I started life way back as a student of the political economy of the welfare state. And I guess I always thought that it was an important topic because it helped increase, even if inadequately, life chances for people who would otherwise be in trouble. That it was an instrument for, if not achieving social justice, at least carving off some of the harsh edges of market economies. And so one would hate to lose that. And yet one also likes a more cosmopolitan society. And so one had to face the worry among many analysts that the more complex, the more diverse the society, the more difficult it is to maintain those redistributive programs that define the welfare state in the post-war era.
What are some of the biggest challenges that you faced doing this research?
Oh, they're legion, but I think the biggest challenge is simply the cost and the processes of gathering data. And also the difficulty of getting participation by immigrants, especially newly arrived immigrants, in survey processes. There is often a reluctance, understandably, especially if their command of English is not yet great, and perhaps a little anxiety about putting your views on the line. So many of these people come from countries where that's not welcome. So I would think hearing the immigrants' own voices, especially hearing the voices of poor immigrants, has been the biggest challenge.
Have you found it difficult to publicize your work beyond the academic community?
In Canada, yes. It's interesting, it has never really been a big public policy debate here about a very high level of ethnic diversity weakens social programs. It is, however, an existential question in parts of Europe, and especially in Scandinavia. So I have been invited to give many more talks in Scandinavia on the issue of is there a tension between diversity and solidarity in Scandinavia than I have in Canada. So the responsiveness depends on the nature of the political debates in the country.
What has your research taught us that policymakers in the domain of immigration should know?
I think our research has mainly been a case of knocking down or pushing back against very dire predictions. There have been very strong predictions from scholars and from politicians that growing diversity, high levels of immigration would weaken social solidarity and end the welfare state. And most of our work has had the effect of saying, whoa, that's not true. It may be true in some places at some times, but it's not a general phenomenon.
The last question is, what has your research taught us about how candidates running for office should message our campaign?
We've done much less work on that question. And so our advice, I think, would be advice to avoid extreme statements, because they're almost always wrong. But I can't say that our research has produced more direct implications for political campaigns.
Well, thank you so much.
Well, you're quite welcome.